Human beings are all God's creatures and are all endowed with dignity and respect. We are all members of the international community, peoples driven by their divine nature intrinsically seek good, virtue, perfection, and beauty. Justice, peace, and virtue will sooner or later prevail in the world with the will of the Almighty God. All divine prophets, from the prophet Adam, peace be upon him, to the prophet Moses, to the prophet Jesus Christ, to the prophet Muhammad, have all called humanity to monotheism, justice, brotherhood, love, and compassion.
Muslim bombing another mosque of a Muslim, if they did, that's un-Islamic. We've become so insane because of injustice that we strap a bomb on ourselves and go kill another human being that didn't bother you. We've become so insane because of injustice that we strap a bomb on ourselves and go kill another human being that didn't bother you. This is madness. And that's why the Mahdi, or the Christ, must come into the world to clean up religion.
I emphatically declare that today's world, more than ever before, longs for just and righteous people with love for all humanity, and above all, longs for the perfect righteous human being, and the real Savior, who has been promised to all peoples and who will establish justice, peace, and brotherhood on the planet.
Allah willing, Israel will be annihilated because the Prophet Muhammad said so. Don't believe it because I said so. Believe it because I say the Prophet Muhammad said so. Judgment Day will not come before the Muslims fight the Jews and kill them. The final annihilation of the Jews will come at the time of the Mahdi, or shortly before the Mahdi appears.
It's Sunday, July 27th, 2014, opening gates of Hades.
But for you true saints, the few that are there, that are striving and fighting, in this slumber of trying not to go to sleep, my intentions is to exhort you to continue on in the faith and to fight the good fight. And remember that the Lord has not given us true saints the spirit of fear. Saints, the battle is being set in array while the people in this nation, these professing Christians, while the Christians should have their minds on this, they have their mind on this, and this. while their minds are preoccupied, judgment is being set, and their mind is on this, this, and this. And so, without further ado, I want you to look at these events that show how we got to where we are today.
Reagan was elected to the presidency. He installed Louis Giuffrida as head of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Giuffrida was an old cold warrior from Reagan's California days whose specialty was suppression of unrest and dissent. Giuffrida, North, and George Bush began to turn FEMA into an instrument of domestic anti-terrorism.
You're dealing with a group of people in the Reagan administration who equated political dissent with treason, and who cannot differentiate between emergency procedures, which I think everyone agrees are necessary, and suppressing political dissent. And with North and Poindexter and Casey, you had a group of people who saw Americans who disagree with them as the enemy. Colonel
North, in your work at the NSC, were you not assigned at one time to work on plans for the continuity of government in the event of a major disaster? Mr. Chairman,
I believe that question touches upon a highly sensitive and classified area, so may I request that you not touch upon that, sir.
I was particularly concerned, Mr. Chairman, because I read in Miami papers and several others that there had been a plan developed by that same agency, a contingency plan in the event of emergency that would suspend the American Constitution. And I was deeply concerned about it and wondered if that was the area in which he had worked. I believe it was.
May I most respectfully request that that matter not be touched upon at this stage. If we wish to get into this, certain arrangements can be made for an executive session.
And tragically, the only member who got close was Jack Brooks, and he was stopped.
Have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
This is what I want to talk about today with you for a few minutes. I believe we, and particularly you, your class, has an incredible window of opportunity to lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century.
Occasions we now experience. There also exists an extraordinary opportunity to form for the first time in history a truly global society, carried by the principle of interdependence. And if we act wisely and with vision, I think we can look back to all this turmoil as the birth pangs.
The United Nations are pursuing the development of a one-world religious organization. Today, on the United Nations 55th anniversary, CBN News reporter Wendy Griffith takes a look at what's behind this push for a global religious voice.
After a while, the drums, chants, and prayers representing many of the world's leading religions all started to sound alike, somehow losing their flavor in a melting pot of spiritual soup. The first ever Millennium World Peace Summit of religious and spiritual leaders took place at the United Nations in August, and some believe it marked the first major step toward a movement to usher in a global spiritual body that may one day speak for all religions. The hidden agenda is to unite people under one religious organization.
Instead of all these different gods, maybe there's one God who manifests himself and revealed himself in different ways to different people. You know, what about that, huh?
CNN founder and billionaire Ted Turner was the honorary chair of the World Religion Summit. Turner, known for his critical views on biblical Christianity, promoted the New Age concept that there are many ways to heaven.
The thing that disturbed me is that my religious Christian sect was very intolerant, not intolerant of religious freedom for other people, but they thought that we were the only ones going to heaven.
Supporters of a global religious voice have come down hard on evangelical Christians, who refuse to adopt their New Age agenda.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. As you say. As you say. As you say. As you say.
What do you think the most important thing is for Barack Obama? Obviously, you're here to talk about the anniversary for U.S.-China diplomatic relations, but if you had to say this will define the Obama administration, what would it be?
Well, its task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity.
In this new world, such dangerous currents have swept along faster than our efforts to contain them. And that is why we cannot afford to be divided. No one nation, no matter how large or powerful, can defeat such challenges alone. None of us can deny these threats or escape responsibility in meeting them. Yes, there have been differences between America and Europe. No doubt there will be differences in the future. But the burdens of global citizenship continue to bind us together. A change of leadership in Washington will not lift this burden. In this new century, Americans and Europeans alike will be required to do more, not less. Partnership and cooperation among nations is not a choice. It is the only way, the one way, to protect our common security and advance our common humanity. That is why the greatest danger of all is to allow new walls to divide us from one another. The walls between old allies on either side of the Atlantic cannot stand. The walls between the countries with the most and those with the least cannot stand. The walls between races and tribes, natives and immigrants, Christians and Muslims and Jews cannot stand. These now are the walls we must tear down.
What book is this? The Post-American World by Fareed Zakaria, who is Muslim. No pledge of allegiance to the flag.
What they do is they develop a crisis intentionally so that they can bring in their solution to the crisis. That many events like the Civil War, World War I, the 1929 Depression, they are intentionally caused to make people come in and cooperate, whatever the reason may be. Okay? Oklahoma City bombing was intentionally allowed to stop the militia movement going on here in America. Call Ben Parton, the Air Force explosives expert. He says that no truck bomb blew up that building. The pillars were sheared off. That was C4 explosives wrapped around the pillars. Many folks are convinced the government was involved in taking down the building in Oklahoma City. And same thing with the Twin Tower bombing.
No second plane. It was a bomb. Bombed in the building, not second plane. That was a bomb. Who said the second plane?
That's what we're told, the second plane.
No,
we saw it on television.
Everything.
All right. Thanks a lot. This is...
Of how much of the plane actually impacted the building.
You know, it might have appeared that way, but from my close-up inspection, there's no evidence
of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual site of the building that's crashed in, and as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, a fuselage, nothing like that anywhere around, which would indicate that the entire plane crashed into the side of the Pentagon and then caused the side to collapse. Now, even though if you look at the pictures of the Pentagon, you see that the floors have all collapsed, that didn't happen immediately. It wasn't until almost about 45 minutes later that the structure was weakened enough that all of the floors collapsed.
Get the website 9/11inplainsight.com. Has anybody seen the movie In Plain Sight? Anybody seen that? David Rockefeller said, "We're on a verge of a global transformation. All we need is the right major crisis, and the nations will accept the New World Order." See, God has plans for the world, and so does Satan. And Satan's plan is no people here, maybe just a few, and a one-world government. The Bible says perilous times shall come. The people will be fierce, despisers of those that are good. Christians are going to be absolutely hated. You can already see the animosity toward Christians on TV. You know, if there's a bad guy in the movie and he's an axe-wielding person, you know, beating everybody up, it's always somebody quoting Bible verses, isn't it? One of the groups to really watch in this plan for the New World Order is FEMA. Boy, they have taken over my city since the hurricanes. There's just no question. They are in charge, all right? Just keep an eye on that group. There are all kinds of people involved in this plan toward a new world order. The United Nations, the World Council of Churches. If you go to a church that's a member of that, get out. Okay? Council of Foreign Relations, CFR, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergers, the IMF, International Monetary Fund, the International Bankers, the Club of Rome, the Communists, the Socialists, National NEA, National Education Association. Get out of that bunch if you're in it. Okay? Or ACLU or the Masonic Lodge. Most people in the Masonic Lodge don't realize what they're in. They think they're in a do-gooders club. And it won't be till it's too late when they realize, wow, this was a satanic organization. General Albert Pike, 33rd degree Mason, leader of all the Masons years ago, said, "That which we must say to the crowd is, we worship a God, but it is a God that one adores without superstition. To you, sovereign grand inspectors general, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degrees. The Masonic religion should be by all of us initiates of the high degrees maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine." Yes, Lucifer is God. When the Mason learns the key to the warrior on the block is the proper appliance of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, and before he may step onward and upward, he must prove his ability to properly handle energy. What do we do? Real simple. Exactly what Jesus told us to do. He said, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them," get people saved and teach them to go do the same.
We'll now vote for approval of H.R. 8791, the Homeland Terrorism Preparedness Bill. Civilian and military units shall be trained in containment and combat of classified, including irradiated classified, with possibility of classified airborne, classified flesh-eating, classified, and or all of the above, in such event as classified spewing, classified escape, are released or otherwise become uncontrollable. Air Force units may also be directed to combat said classified due to their enormous size and otherworldly strengths. Should event occur in urban areas, that's classified, far surpassing our darkest nightmares. Should casualties exceed classified, body disposal actions shall be halted and associated resources shall be reallocated to classified underground, classified protected birthing centers. A new Bill of Rights shall be drafted and approved by classified.
Many of us were told in private conversations that if we voted against this bill on Monday, that the sky would fall, the market would drop 2,000 or 3,000 points the first day, another couple thousand the second day, and a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no.
Discovered is that Dick and Barack Obama are eighth cousins. Was that an amazing thing? Yes.
He's President Bush's 9th cousin once removed. Cheney's cousin Barack Obama is also Bush's 11th cousin.
Senator, it's been reported that you and your wife are in the globalist CFR, which is the Council on Foreign Relations. I'd like to know if that is true, and also I'd like to know where you stand on the North American Union, which has been confirmed recently in the press. Ron Paul actually spoke about it in Congress. Has actually spent some money on it. This North American Union involves a union much like the European Union, only with Canada, Mexico, and the United States, and the possible merging of the money system into a piece called the Amero, which would actually strip the United States of some of its sovereignty. And I'd like to know if that is true.
The Council on Foreign Relations, I don't know if I'm an official member. I've spoken there before. It basically is just a forum where a bunch of people talk about foreign policy. And so there's nothing, there's no official membership. I don't have a card, handshake or anything like that. In terms of this North America, union, this has been something I know Ron Paul's talked about and people have been talking about. I have to say, with all due respect, that I see no evidence of this actually taking place. I think this has been something that has been ginned up in certain blogs on the internet.
The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally.
We have an out-of-control rogue president who has plotted to break our borders down. You say, how do you know that? Is that a conspiracy theory? No, I've shown you the emails. I posted them on michaelsavage.com. They go back to January. Department of Health and Human Services put out an RFP, request for proposal. They needed enough clothing and food for, at the time, 100,000 immigrants, they said. They were planning this all along. Planning it. This is a crime against America. A foreign government could not do to this country what Obama has done to this country. A foreign enemy, if China took over this country, they couldn't do more harm than he's done already. I stand by those words.
New information on the disturbing video obtained by 10 News of an angry mob of protesters storming the San Ysidro border crossing and confronting Border Patrol agents. It's video that we first showed you last night at 11, but border agents say the event had been planned for more than a week.
The incident happened on Sunday right behind me here at the international border. Hundreds of angry migrants crossed the border illegally, and some say it was an attempt to provoke border agents on camera. In this video, you see agents and the group on the U.S. side of the international border confronting agents, throwing rocks and bottles. Immigrant advocate Enrique Morones is disturbed by the tense situation that unfolded on video between the agents and the large group of protesters on Sunday.
Push, provoke, and film. I think the filming part was very important to this group of people.
Morones says this flyer, which encouraged people who have been deported to storm the border to reunite with family members, was just handed out a week ago.
I don't think these people were actually protesting.
This game of cat and mouse here, but it's going beyond that to provoke agents to use deadly force.
According to Border Patrol Union Representative Gabriel Pacheco, the protesters illegally crossed the border and then threw rocks and bottles at agents. Agents used rubber bullets and pepper gas. Both agents and Morones say the Border Patrol showed great restraint and the instigators of the protest should be held accountable.
It's more like propaganda where the people were doing it for their own self-interest, not taking this situation of these people's lives and what a high risk it was. They weren't thinking about the people, they were thinking about themselves.
Border Patrol agents and Enrique Morones say there is a risk this could happen again. They tell us both sides of the border are investigating to ensure it doesn't.
By the mere dint of bringing up the charges for impeachment, it will slow down, if not stop his agenda entirely. I didn't call for it a year ago. I didn't call for it 6 months ago. I called for it a few months ago when I saw what he was doing, and I told you he was only going to ratchet up what he was about to do, and I predicted he would break the borders, and I'll make another prediction. He's going to go for your guns next. I make the prediction that he will go for the Second Amendment next.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Kleffler in New York with an ABC News Now special report. The push for gun control getting some serious star power today. You can see right there Tony Bennett, Chris Rock, Amanda Peet, among some of the celebrities joining a coalition at a press conference today at the U.S. Capitol in support of President Obama's measures on gun control. Let's now listen in to this morning's news conference.
Haven't gotten over Connecticut. I'd like the assault weapons to go to war, not in our own country. And I'd like assault weapons eliminated. Thank you.
I'm not going to say much. I think everybody else far better at this than me. I am just here to support the President of the United States. The President of the United States is, our boss. But he's also, the President and the First Lady are kind of like the mom and the dad of the country. And when your dad says something, you listen. And when you don't, it usually bites you in the ass later on. So I'm here to support the President.
Thank you. Just your notes. And we listen to a news conference there.
He's going to go for broke. He's going to go to the walls on every last agenda item of the Communist Manifesto. The Communist Party USA has disappeared and gone underground and come back up inside the Obama administration. This is their agenda. Disarm the citizenry and then you can manipulate them any way you want. And most Americans who are gun owners know that. And they know that the Second Amendment was not made for hunting deer. It was meant to protect themselves from a tyrannical government. Didn't Obama take an oath to uphold our laws? Didn't he take an oath to defend our borders against all enemies, both domestic and foreign? Without clearly defined borders, anyone can waltz right into America. Without borders, there's no country. Here's a breaking report. Catholic churches are providing housing for the storm of illegals crossing the border. You heard me. This is a conspiracy of the government Catholic complex. The government Catholic complex is working together. And right now, the Catholic churches are providing housing for illegals in Southern California. Although there was a large outcry inside the congregation in Riverside, California, the priest decided they would take in 25 of these illegals for at least a month.
He's going to go down as being one of the worst presidents ever.
We look like we live in Beirut somewhere. Do something for our children. Have the same love for these young people like you got for the ones across the border, and you want to save them.
President Barack needs to pay attention to Chicago.
Here we got a mayor in our city and our President of the United States who have passed legislation and have given up funding to create opportunities for new citizens to come into the United States, ignoring people who've been born and raised here.
Mr. President, we're asking for you. You're spending billions of dollars in Texas, but we got a problem here in Chicago.
I have to quote something right now. C.S. Lewis wrote that of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better off to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. There's your Roman Church with a Jesuit communist pope.
In the reality of the global economic slowdown, money still makes the world go round. In the circles of vice and lust, political maneuvering and corruption. Is money the source of all evil, or just those who control it?
So the government shutdown, is the move on the part of the Republicans justified? Is fighting off Obamacare worth all this mess?
I think there's something more going on behind the scenes. A lot more, actually.
What do you mean
The Federal Reserve is printing dollars like there's no tomorrow, and if they keep going, the rest of the world is not going to accept them. There's a loss in confidence in the fiat currencies that are issued by those private banks. They like to consider themselves as public banks, but they're really owned by private entities. And these currencies are about to crash because they're valueless. That's what always happens to paper currencies that aren't backed by assets.
Is Obamacare really that crucial for the U.S. economy?
What we have here is a bill that was drafted by the medical insurance companies. It's not good for this economy. It never was.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Darnell Summers. I'm 57 years old, and I work in the fast food industry. I have been on strike 4 times. I'm only making $7.25 an hour. I've been on strike 4 times in association with Wisconsin's Jobs Now to try to get an increase in wages and a fast food union with no prevail. My question to you is, what can you and Congress do to help people as myself in this situation survive? Because with $7.25 and we were broken down to part-time to avoid paying health insurance, we can't survive. It's not living.
Well, Darnell, I agree with you. And on Tuesday at my State of the Union, I talked about this. We've got to make sure that the economy is growing and creating jobs. We've got to make sure folks have the skills.
The mainstream media is completely owned and controlled by the same companies, private companies, that own the Federal Reserve System. Most of the American citizens are clueless about the corruption that's rifling their economy. I'm not siding with Democrats or Republicans because both of those parties have been co-opted by this terrible corrupt force that I'm talking about. The problem is not with the American citizens. They are a wonderful group. Their values are good. It's just that they're not given the tools that they need to have a just society. They're not given the basic information about what is really going on and who's benefiting. They're being told that they have no money. They have taken an entire city, Detroit, and declared it bankrupt, when what's actually happening is their tax dollars are not even staying in their society. Their tax dollars are going by treaty to the United Kingdom, and then they're being transferred to the Vatican. The U.S. Congress has been fighting with the presidency because the presidency has been in total contempt, and the highest legal officer of the United States government has also been in contempt of Congress in fighting this international corruption.
It's obviously wrong this much power is concentrated in one place. Do you think China, for example, could steal its financial role for the United States? Or are they also controlled by the same financial elite you're mentioning?
Well, I can tell you that the Jesuits have a very strong stranglehold on China as well.
I want to share with you guys here a stark warning coming from General Petraeus. This man is stating that America is about to become no more, and we will become North America.
General Petraeus has received numerous U.S. military, State Department, NATO and United Nations awards and medals, and he has also been recognized by 14 or 13 foreign nations on your own behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite General Petraeus to give his lecture entitled The Coming North American Decades. Please, sir, the floor is yours. We have the honor to ask you to give your presentation. Thank you, sir.
Shukran jazilan, Masal here. It is great to be with you all. It's wonderful to be back in Abu Dhabi, and an honor to be able to say a few words this evening. Indeed, it's really a pleasure to be back in this great country, in this extraordinary emirate, and to have an opportunity to speak at this exceptional center. Well done to you all, and we applaud you all. Well, I've been asked to speak this evening about a development that has been a surprise to many around the globe. that the world is on the threshold of what might be called the North American decades. This development is founded on a number of factors. Before beginning, I do want to just recall, as you did, thankfully, that before I spent those 37 years in uniform and served as the director of the CIA, I was actually a professor for a period of time. I taught economics and international relations after earning a PhD at Princeton, and now I'm putting those skills to use again in that position as the chairman of the KKR Global Institute, as a professor at the Honors College of the City University of New York, where I should note that I lead a seminar that is titled, appropriately, The Coming North American Decades.
And for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
I've come to the conclusion that he could imprison 10,000 Americans who oppose him on a pretext that it's for their own safety or it's for the national security, and you would say nothing. I'm pretty sure that the liberal would cheer it. That's how sick they've become.
There may be a number of people who cannot be prosecuted for past crimes. In some cases because evidence may be tainted. But who nonetheless pose a threat to the security of the United States.
We're not prosecuting them for past crimes, but we need to keep them in prison because of our expectation of their future crimes.
Hey everyone, I just got this article that just came over my desk from a brother in the faith. It has to do with something that Obama did with the Jesuits. And you got to check this out. Pretty important. The headline reads, President Obama appoints Jesuit Father Thomas Reese to Commission on International Religious Freedom. Now, those of us that know about Jesuits, you know they don't want anything to do with religious freedom. Their definition of religious freedom is you're allowed to be Roman Catholic, and that's it. On my Words of a Beast page on the website, go to remnantofgod.org, just scroll down to RCC Exposed and go to Horrific, and then go to the Jesuit Oath. Before reading this oath, I'm not going to read the whole thing, of course, but in the oath, they more or less state that they're going to infiltrate every denomination on earth to meld them towards Catholicism, and this is why you see the ecumenical charge being so successful today. All churches are under Rome now, including the SDA Church. But before reading this red paragraph, please, if you have any children nearby or anybody that doesn't like to hear this kind of stuff that's kind of blood-curdling, get them out of the room. Okay? But again, I'm just going to read this red paragraph, and this is what it says. Oh, and by the way, before reading this oath had to be taken by this man who claims to be the head of the Commission of Religious Freedom. This oath was also taken by none other than Pope Francis I. Pope Francis I. If you want to go to RCC Exposed, go to the Popes of Rome, go down to Pope Francis here. This man's a Jesuit. He had to take this oath as well. I've got it, more or less the red paragraph on his page as well. Okay, so I'm going to read this red paragraph. So again, please have your children away from the screen. This is what it says. As I furthermore promise and declare that I will, when opportunity present, make and wage relentless war secretly or openly against all heretics, Protestants, and liberals, as I am directed to do, to extirpate and exterminate them from the face of the whole earth, and that I will spare neither age, sex, or condition, and that I will hang, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up the stomachs and wombs of their women, and crush their infants' heads against the wall, in order to annihilate forever their execrable race. That when the same cannot be done openly, I will secretly use the poisoned cup, the strangulating cord, the steel of the poniard, or the leaden bullet, regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or authority of the person or persons, whatever may be their condition in life, either public or private, as I at any time may be directed so to do by any agent of the Pope or superior to the Brotherhood of the Holy Faith of the Society of Jesus. Now, the Jesuits and the Pope claim to be Christians, but this is in no way a Christian oath. This is an oath from hell. Every aspect of this oath deals with force and death.
Folks, we've got a very serious situation here. I'm holding what is called the right-wing extremism, current economic and political climate, fueling resurgence and radicalization and recruitment. And in it, we talked about the fact that they define pro-lifers as domestic terrorists. They put this in a Department of Homeland Security document, this official assessment, now saying pro-lifers, people that believe in end-time prophecies, people that are opposed to the administration's position on immigration, those of us that are standing up for the sanctity of life and for the sanctity of marriage, all of those are now potential, and this is what they're saying, domestic terrorists.
Activists are demanding that the UN step in to help thousands of people left without water. However, those suffering are not in a remote African or Asian village, but in fact in the bankrupt US city of Detroit. Authorities there are cutting water supplies to thousands of households, saying that they're protecting the city's budget from unpaid bills. UN experts have called the actions a violation of human rights.
It is one of the most essential elements of life. Americans enjoy some of the cleanest and most abundant water in the world. But what happens when the pipes are turned off and the tap runs dry?
How am I supposed to wash my child? How am I supposed to shower myself?
In the largest American city to ever file for bankruptcy, residents are falling behind on their water bills. Now, facing $5 billion in bad debt, the water department is taking drastic measures to plug holes, and that means cutting water.
Is it far-fetched to imagine that these UN peacekeeping forces would be used against American citizens? The 502nd, another unit from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, is shown here arriving as peacekeepers in Somalia, wearing their UN blue berets and UN insignia. Shortly thereafter, this same unit, the 502nd, was in Arkansas practicing house-to-house searches and seizures in a joint UN training mission called Agile Provider in the spring of 1994. Agile Provider involved 44,000 UN troops, including troops from France and the Netherlands, training in the states of Georgia, North and South Carolina, Arkansas, and Tennessee. Yes, UN troops have been trained in this country in the past, but not in brigade strengths and not in domestic support house-to-house searches and seizures. Many of our congressmen deny that UN troops are being trained in this country at all. But as you can see in these clips from Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, Germans were training here last spring.
Das ist die Baracke 1660, die da. Vom Bodenzug, der Hinscholl,
UN training has become so widespread that many of the newspapers around the country have had at least one such story.
I wonder what the hell's up with that.
Here in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, riding down 183, we've got armored UN vehicles.
Okay, guys, Stone Guy 223 here. I'm usually not a conspiracy theorist, but coming home from a match. I'm in South Georgia, coming out of Alabama. Check this shit out. UN. Coming out of Alabama. UN trucks. These look like brand new vehicles. I'm not sure what the hell is going on with this, or why we got UN trucks coming out of Alabama, or at least they're Alabama truckers. No identification on them, just UN trucks. Yeah, these are definitely brand new. All the furniture's brand new on them. I wonder what the hell's up with that.
We could have events in the future where the power grid will go down and it's not in any reasonable time coming back on. For instance, if when the power grid went down, some of our large transformers were destroyed, damaged beyond use. We don't make any of those in this country. They're made overseas, and you order one, and 18 months to 2 years later, they will deliver it. Our power grid is very vulnerable. It is very much on the edge. Our military knows that.
You know, one of the things I think of is in the event of a disaster, what do people do? They flock to the stores. They buy up all their staples and water. So your store will be empty faster than it's ever been empty before.
When this thing happens to this country, all financial support will be taken away from us. there'll be no financial support.
If the dollar keeps going down in value, which is not good because you're going to pay $25 for a loaf of bread pretty soon. If you look at what's happening with our food prices, they're going through the roof.
Stuart Varney is here to explain. Well, that's sad news, Stuart.
It's incredible. Here's the numbers. 101 million Americans currently receive some kind of food aid from the federal government. 101 million.
Can you guarantee as president those checks will go out?
I cannot guarantee that those checks go out because there may simply not be the money.
Utah families who depend on food stamps could be cut off soon. States across the country are being told to stop the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program for the month of November, pending further notice. Now, that's according to a letter from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Fox 13 obtained a copy from the Crossroads Urban Center in downtown Salt Lake.
Hi there, Hope. Yeah, the Crossroads Urban Center says it's a vicious cycle. If Utah families don't get food stamps, well, they will end up turning to the local food pantries, which are already strapped due to the government shutdown. Homeless people we talked to, some who use SNAP, say losing food stamps would mean going hungry.
This is going to create a huge hardship for the people we serve here in our food pantry.
The Crossroads Urban Center posted this letter from the USDA on its Facebook page. It says in part, quote, "In the interest of preserving maximum flexibility, we are directing states to hold their November issuance files and delay transmission to state electronic benefit transfer vendors until further notice."
What this means is that if there's not a deal, if Congress doesn't reach a deal to get the federal government back up and running, in November, about 100,000 families in Utah will not get food stamp benefits.
Tens of thousands of Utah families may not be able to feed their children come November. And people out on the streets like Richard Phillips.
It could impact us, and it's going to cause problems because then you're going to come to find out you're going to have people starting to steal and do what they have to do to survive.
People around here are going to go without food.
Laura Lee Smith, who's been homeless since August, says the uncertainty is making her uneasy about where her next meal will come from.
I'm on food stamps, you know, and don't know if I'm going to get them. And a lot of people are on food stamps and they don't know if they're going to get them.
Others say if SNAP shuts down, they'll find a way to feed themselves.
There's always food pantries to go to get food.
But Crossroads says there's no way they could handle the increase if food stamps go away.
We'll be affected because if people, you know, if a family doesn't get food stamp benefits, they're going to come here. We can't. There's no way we could deal with I mean, that's...
Yeah, couldn't even finish his sentence after that.
Thousands of people here in Southern California and in 16 other states as well have no way to buy groceries right now. Hello, Wolfie.
Hey, Rick. Yeah, a lot of very vocal reaction indeed. This Food for Less behind me here in Hollywood is just one of several stores that accept these food stamp debit cards, but of course not today.
I go to the register, they ask me, how you going to pay? I said, with food stamps. Oh, we're shut down, we can't pay with food stamps. I got kids to feed, you know, because the government stuff now, I can't feed my family. This is crazy.
Phaedra Thompson is hardly alone in her anger and frustration after learning that the government program that helps her buy food for her family is not working. The card is basically a food stamp debit card.
What's going on with America? You know, what are they trying to do to us? You know, now they're trying to starve us to death. Now we can't buy food. Economy is going. You know what? I'm so upset. I don't even want to talk no more about this because this is crazy.
Hi, good evening. I'm Dominique Ben. Thanks so much for joining us for KSLA News 12 Weekend at 10. The shopping frenzy happened at the Walmarts in Mansfield and in Spring Hill. KSLA News 12's Victoria Shirley explains what happened and shows you the chaos that was all caught on tape.
Walmart shoppers in two Arklatex towns looking to do some grocery shopping on Sunday found bare shelves and empty food bins.
Just about everything is gone. I've never seen in that condition.
Shopper Anthony Fuller says the big box store in Mansfield looked like someone raided it. He's not far off. Spring Hill Police Chief Will Lind says people piled their cars full of food for 2 hours. One man captured the aftermath with cell phone video.
Man, this is unreal, bro. Oh, when we walked through the door, It looked like a tornado had came through.
Chris, it is 9:31. If you're just now joining us, we are following breaking news out of Taylor.
That's where police responded in riot gear because of an out-of-control crowd.
But it was really a heartbreaking story. What was supposed to happen here at the Taylor Human Services Center is that people were supposed to be able to line up to get vouchers for government housing, for Section 8 housing. They lined up away from the center, down Ling Road, which you can see over there, and I'm told down Ling Road all the way to Northline, which is about a mile away. There were thousands of people. Thank you so much for joining me, and just tell me what it was like overnight.
I mean, it was extremely cold. We got here at midnight, me and my friend Candace, and I mean, really from the beginning it was kind of chaotic. This meant, you know, a roof over my kids' heads.
Welcome back to the Ed Show, and finally tonight, chaos erupted in Georgia today. These pictures show the desperate situation millions of Americans are facing. Over the past 3 days, 30,000 people showed up outside of Atlanta just to get an application for public housing. Today, an estimated 10,000 people stood in the lines for hours in 90-degree heat. Dozens of people were treated for overheating. This is just amazing.
The first thought that I had when we pulled up on the scene here was whether we were in America, and I have to be very careful as a reporter not to overstep my bounds, but this was a very disgusting scene that we saw here in Metro Atlanta today. Dozens upon dozens of people passing out from the heat, standing in the heat just to get an application to apply for public housing here in Metro Atlanta. This does not guarantee them a place to live. In fact, they had so many applications go out today, 13,000 applications. There are exactly 0 public housing units, 0 subsidized housing units available in East Point, Georgia.
Now, we told you before about a high-tech microchip that could be implanted in the arm. Critical medical details could be accessed, and people wonder if eventually this could lead to tracking the people. Well, it isn't without controversy, and ABC's John Berman is here to tell us that people are now ready and lining up.
Yeah, that's right, Diane. Good morning. One of the greatest fears for those caring for someone with Alzheimer's is that their loved one will get lost, show up at a hospital, and no one will know who they are or what's wrong with them. And we have reported on this tiny new microchip that might be able to help. Well, now for this first time with great controversy, patients are lining up to get them.
Ida is one of the first patients at this Alzheimer's center in Florida to be implanted with a microchip.
When an Alzheimer's patient presents in an emergency room or is found wandering in a certain location, once their arm is scanned, it would immediately designate who they are, their identity, and the fact that they are an Alzheimer's patient.
The Verichip is the size of a grain of rice.
And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them.
Way back on September 25, 2005, our current Vice President, then Senator Joe Biden, made an astonishment revelations at a hearing of Chief Justice nominee John Roberts.
Can a microscopic tag be implanted in a person's body to track his every movement? There's actual discussion about that. You will rule on that, mark my words, before your tenure is over. Can brain scans be used to determine whether a person is inclined toward criminality or violent behavior? You will rule on that.
There were plenty of revisions of the law, but the final bill that President Barack Obama signed and Chief Justice John Roberts upheld was H.R. 4872, Reconciliation Act of 2010. Now this is very important because H.R. 3200 got passed out for House Republican Bill H.R. 4872, which is a Reconciliation Bill Section 2521, which reads, the Secretary shall establish a national medical registry, in this subsection referred to as registry, to facilitate analysis of post-market safety and outcomes data on each device that is A, is or has been used in or on a patient, B, is B1, a Class 2 medical device, B2, a Class 2 device that is implantable, life-supporting, and life-sustaining. This healthcare mandate allows the federal government to implant every American citizen with an RFID implantable device.
And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
As we can all see, the death penalty is a hot ticket item in the news once again. Only this time, they are using all sorts of methods, from bad science to outright lies, to get the people to rethink on how the U.S. government should be killing people on death row now. And this is why, by the way, a certain video was leaked years ago of a man being electrocuted in Georgia, wherein they purposely kept the sponge on his head dry, so as to cause him to writhe in pain for a few minutes, as well as ignite in flame. That video allowed for legislation that eventually brought about the legal option for the guillotine for all death row inmates in Georgia. So, seeing how successful their efforts were in Georgia to bring about the option for prisoners on death row to choose guillotines as a way to die, as expected, they are now spewing all sorts of new lies and bad science once again, but this time they're going nationwide with it. In fact, just yesterday, the well-controlled media posted the following article in the Washington Post. Here it is. The headline reads, "Guillotine firing squads better than lethal injection," says prominent federal judge. Now listen to what it says here in the article. It says, "Executions are brutal, savage events, and if society wants to carry them out, it ought to stop pretending otherwise. Forget about lethal injections and return to more primitive and foolproof methods, like the guillotine, or on second thought, the firing squad." And by the way, we also see this article and video on NBC News website as well. This one actually has a video on this site too, as well, in regards to lethal injection and how they're pushing talking points regarding how painful it is and whatever. And yes, on this page too, they even mentioned the botched execution of Clayton Lockett in Oklahoma back in April of this year, as well as others, as talking points that affirmed the federal judge's opinion that guillotines should be considered. And yes, I know, he also mentions firing squads, but it's obvious. He's only saying that to take the onus off the obvious prophetic implications of the guillotine. Everyone knows a firing squad can cause much pain if their aim isn't dead on. And so his original comments actually nullify the use of a firing squad, but he said it anyway so as to not be so obvious when it comes to Rome's demand for the guillotine. So the cleaner and more effective use of the guillotine will no doubt be considered and then legalized across the nation. How do I know this is fact? It says in Revelation 20.
No. Danny, I don't want to be here. Please, I don't want to be here. Please help me.
Patty, we don't want you to be here either. My sister just threw her life away for a God that doesn't even exist. Life is real, Patty. Can't you see? That guillotine is real. Please take the mark. Patty, please.
Take the mark.
Please.
Patty Jo Myers, do you wish to renounce your faith in your God
and receive your identification either on your right hand or in your forehead as set forth by Brother Christopher in Article 17A? If so, answer I do, and you will be returned to your rightful place in society.
In April, Barack Obama insulted small-town Americans, saying they're bitter and cling to their guns and religion. It wasn't the first time Senator Obama insulted Americans of faith. In 2006, Obama mocked and ridiculed the books of Leviticus, Deuteronomy, even laughing at the Sermon on the Mount, taking those passages painfully out of context.
Should we go with Leviticus, which suggests slavery is okay? Or we could go with Deuteronomy, which suggests stoning your child? Or should we just stick to the Sermon on the Mount, a passage that is so radical that it's doubtful that our own Defense Department would survive its application?
Then Senator Obama had this to say.
Folks haven't been reading their Bible.
And the band played on.
Bill Keller, Bill, I enjoy Oprah. I'm an Oprah fan. What do you have against her?
Well, I got to tell you, Terry, first of all, it's good to be with you. I've been telling people for years that Oprah is probably the most dangerous woman on the world. And let me tell you why I say that. Her program has evolved over the years to the point now where she is really the queen of the New Age gurus. She has started on her XM satellite station, January 1st, teaching a course in miracles that is nothing but regurgitated New Age teachings from centuries old. Monday night, she starts a 10-week course on a new earth, which is off of a book written by Eckhart Tolle, a great New Age pursuant. And the fact is, Oprah is making a fortune pushing New Age philosophies down people's throat.
Well, she's doing it, I guess, because it sells or because people like to watch her.
Well, here's the problem. She claims to be a Christian. And the problem is, a Christian believes that this book is the only truth there is, and Jesus Christ is the only way to be saved. The problem is these New Age teachings are really sucking in millions of people into these false philosophies, these false theologies, and they're literally leading people to hell. Oprah, whether she knows it or not, is really being a conduit to lead people to hell if you believe the Bible to be true. She's been pushing this course on miracles, a year-long New Age course that basically says there is no sin. And again, Monday night, she starts her latest venture, which, the fact is, there's 1 million people plus that are going to be plugged into this 10-week course. That means 1 million people plus have bought the book. There's a accompanying paraphernalia that goes with it, and she's going to rake in millions of dollars. But the problem is, she's leading people down a road of destruction if, again, you believe the Bible to be true and Christ to be the only way to be saved.
All right, well, she's trying to sell us our next president, for who she hopes is our next president. She's doing that well as well. Thanks, Bill.
It's been a long time coming. But tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
You are absolutely right that John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith, my Muslim faith, and you're absolutely right that that has not come my Christian faith.
Assalamu alaikum. As the Holy Quran tells us, the Holy Quran teaches that, the Holy Quran tells us, and the Holy Quran also says, the future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam.
He's an African American, and if he wasn't an African American, if he was a white guy, those wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have been treated in quite the same way. He wouldn't have to deal with quite the same confrontations.
Yeah, I think that there's a level of disrespect for the office that occurs. And that occurs in some cases, and maybe even many cases, because he's African American.
The panel has been discussing the spirituality and the forces of God, but I also believe that there are two forces that are here with us. That we do have our God that we can depend on, but there's also a power of darkness.
Do you believe that you can choose between one or the other?
Most absolute, definitely.
Yeah. Now, Marianne Williamson says in her book, Return to Love, that we're always walking in the direction of one or the other, that all of your actions in life, either you're moving toward the darkness or you're moving toward the light. It talks about, one of the points it brings out is one of the mistakes that human beings make is believing that there is only one way to live. That's and right. That we don't accept that there are diverse ways of being in the world, that there are millions of ways to be a
then
human
how do
being.
you please God?
And many ways, but many paths to what you call God.
And I guess the danger that could be on that, I mean, it sounds great on the onset, but if you really look at both sides,
there couldn't possibly be just one way. What about Jesus? What about Jesus?
Say there isn't only one way. There is one way and only one way, and that is through Jesus.
There couldn't possibly be with
because
the millions
you
of people
say
in the
there
world.
isn't.
There couldn't possibly be.
Because you say, you intellectualize it and say there isn't. If you don't believe that, you're all buying into the lie.
This force that's happening in the world is coming about all over. It's like resurgent atavism.
It is a role model that I myself am a Satan in the society in which I exist.
We are here, we're not going away, and Christianity and the day of the cross are done.
Hail Satan!
Hail Satan!
The age of fire has begun.
Many are religious, but spiritually dull of hearing. Oh, they're full of information and news and facts. They're even full of religious stuff, but they don't hear the Holy Spirit. They don't know what it's like to hear the Holy Spirit speak. In fact, a lot of them will even condemn anybody who says he or she hears the Holy Spirit. Churches are full of baptized pagans. They don't have a heart for God. It's not God that you're looking for. It's news and information. And then there are people that talk religious, but you don't have an intimate relationship with our Heavenly Father. Some of you are just fixated on end-of-the-world news. There's no change in your sinful behavior. A lot of you are caught up into some very, very, very dark sins, and you're not ready for what's going to happen. And it's going to come up to your face very quickly. And for some reason, you're just unwilling to give up the sins that you're committing. Whether it's adultery, if you're married and you're having sexual relations with another person, or you're single and you're having sexual relations with a person that's fornication, or you may be involved in pornography or homosexual conduct, or it may be you're abusing drugs, or you're a drunkard, or you're a violent physical abuser. There's a lot of things. You've blocked out the Holy Spirit from your life. And I'm telling you, things are about to happen in this country. You're not going to get through it without God. In fact, I'm just going to be honest with you. What's coming, many of you aren't going to get through it physically. You're going to die. How's that for an uplifting sermon? I'm not here to tell you how to live your best life now like Joel Osteen. I'm here to tell you how to live your life to be ready to die, so that you spend eternity with the Creator of the universe. We're nearing the end of time. We're nearing the fulfillment of Bible prophecy and the return of the Lord Jesus Christ. But before we get there, there are going to be horrific things that happen on this earth. And you already know, I don't believe, I don't teach, I don't tell people you're going to be whisked away in a secret pre-tribulation rapture. You don't have to worry about any of these things because all this bad stuff happens after the church is raptured and taken away. I don't believe it. I don't teach it. Tens of millions of people who simply don't care. They don't care that their nation is being dismantled. They just don't care. They're living in a make-believe world of consumerism and the pursuit of sexual experiences and digital gadgets and texting and emailing and posting nonsense on Facebook and watching moronic TV shows and going to the theater to watch the latest Hollywood movie where Babylon can pour into you and into your children its perverted, twisted values, which they send through the eyes in your head, the eye gate to your soul, and Babylon enters into your soul.
Boy, oh boy, I don't know, those Bible readers out there must have a lot of sleepless nights right now.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.